So we are inches away from a war that nobody wants, at least not nobody in the West wants. I'm not sure exactly what Putin's trying to do, but we are far less safe now than we were in September. One wrong move. We're like at the Archduke Ferdinand moment. If you remember Archduke Ferdinand from World War I, that's what his assassination is what kicked off the war that became the Great War, which we now know as World War I. We're right on the cusp of something like that. Something could go very wrong. Now, if you look at the ISW, Russia is clearly in no mood to do anything except keep plowing forward. And they're doing it in Ukraine, but they're also starting to really provoke in the West, within Europe itself. The ISW continues to assess that Russia remains unwilling to engage in good faith negotiations and is instead repeatedly demanding that Ukraine capitulate and acquiesce to Russia's maximalist demands. Now, they know nothing's going to happen from that, so they just keep pressing, and then they keep pushing on Europe. I think they're pushing on Europe to get them to back away from supporting Ukraine, but in doing that, they've destabilized things. At the same time, they're also signing a decree now withdrawing Russia from international convention banning tea. And you can read what I'm saying with I'm saying tea. It's what happens to POWs 90% of the time. And I'm not making that 90% figure up. I've seen 85 to 90+% as far as what they do to Ukrainian POWs, electric shocks, sexual abuse of some sort or whatever. I mean, this is absolutely terrible. And they're withdrawing from that. Then Greg Terry and I are talking about this, comparing our notes independently, coming to the same kind of conclusions. He's like, man, you got to see this chart that I have. If you're not familiar with the Greg Terry experience, go over there and look at his channel. I'm just going to show you two little bits from here. This is Russia's war economy now as compared to 2022. Look at this.
The Russian war economy. This is not year over year. This is the fourth quarter 2022, that would have been 9 months into the war, versus the first quarter 2025. Russia multiplies weapons and military equipment output number per quarter. You can see in the light blue column 2022, 123 tanks per quarter, now 444, a 260% increase. Fighting and mobility vehicles, 585 versus 1,641, 180% gain. Artillery, 60 versus 168, 180% gain. Short-range air defense, 9 versus 30. And remember, this is quarter by quarter, 233% increase. And Lancet loitering munition, this is for drone warfare, 93 versus 336, 261% increase. The source of this is the Kiel Institute for the World Economy. We can see all of these factors coming together. Now we take and add another piece.
Now, if you look at those numbers, it's not showing anything good here. Russia's not planning on going anywhere. They're only increasing. They're moving that direction headlong. Now, today, I was just talking about this. Zelensky confirmed Putin's drones just did something that's unthinkable. They keep harassing the Europeans, and they're doing it, it appears, from the platforms of their Shadow Fleet tankers. I mean, Zelensky just came out and said that. It's unbelievable. I mean, this is like ramping up the, like, we keep moving toward the edge, and this was like taking a giant step toward the edge, not inching. Danish military has reportedly called up a number of reservists in response to drone activity in the country's airspace. This is according to TV2. Soldiers have been instructed to report in as soon as possible for service in Denmark. That's how worried the Danes are. And like Denmark, that's a long way from the front lines. That's right. But drones make it not a long way. I mean, that's really what's happening. This article from Politico is what made me do this extra video, because I was only going to do 2 today, and I had to do this after I read it. Okay, Brussels. The provocations of Vladimir Putin and the semi-detachment of Donald Trump are forcing European Union to radically transform itself. The warlike threat surrounding the gathering in Copenhagen could scarcely be more ominous. Not only have the Russian fighter jets flown into NATO airspace, prompting Trump and EU chiefs to publicly back the idea of shooting them down. The very airport that the Danish capital, that scores of leaders and officials will fly into, saw major disruptions last week because of mysterious drones described by Denmark as a hybrid attack. That's what's actually happening. There's a hybrid attack. And because they didn't do anything and didn't do anything and didn't do anything, you're getting more. You get more of what you tolerate. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, a former German defense minister, has pushed for an unprecedented discussion at the summit of the EU's military capabilities. So they're looking at EU military capability, not NATO. What can the EU do as the EU? Moving far beyond the bloc's traditional focus on trade, antitrust, economics, because that's not what the EU was designed for. It wasn't designed to be a military bloc. They're talking about the creation of a drone wall. The meeting of is the first since the EU's 27 leaders huddled in Brussels back in June. A lot has happened since then, and I'm telling you, like, we are inching and inching closer to a war that nobody wants. The bloc wants real decisions on bulking up Europe's defenses and getting cash into Ukraine. At least they can agree on a bottom line. Do nothing that makes all-out war more likely. Well, they don't want to do that, but by not doing anything so far, they have made it more likely because Russia just keeps pushing. The challenges for European leaders in Copenhagen is to find a deterrence equilibrium with an increasingly risk-seeking Russian leadership. Yes, Putin has kept pushing and pushing and pushing the envelope, and that's why we are where we are. Privately, government officials have expressed worries about the prospect of a Franz Ferdinand moment. That's what I was talking about earlier, what kicked off World War I, where a sudden escalation threatens to drag the continent into conflict, like the 1914 assassination of the Archduke that triggered World War I. Putin will not wait to finish his war in Ukraine, says Zelensky. He will open up some other direction, but nobody knows where. Now, I don't know if that's a true prediction or not, but it's quite possible. But there is nothing like the threat of invasion to focus the mind. It's a difficult balance because you don't want to terrify people, but you want leaders to be aware of the risks enough to take them seriously. We haven't been taking things seriously enough. Putin has kept pushing the envelope, and, well, this is where we are. Now, while that's going on, Branislav Slanchev said this, Orban literally repeating what Putin said, Ukraine's sovereignty only exists through Russia. That is, it doesn't actually exist. There is no sovereignty. That's Orban saying that there is no sovereignty. This goes way beyond the usual obstructionist rhetoric and straight into denying Ukraine's right to exist. That's what Orban's doing now. Couldn't help but notice that they moved away from direct denial of the incursions. Remember the Hungarian drones that went into Ukrainian airspace, following the Kremlin playbook that when confronted with evidence, you just deny things. So here's what Orban is saying. Listen to this. So this is nonsense. It doesn't matter a thing. I believe my ministers. Let's say that they went, the drones a few meters in, and so what? Ukraine is not an independent country. Ukraine is not a sovereign state, right? Look at this again. Ukraine is not an independent country. Ukraine is not a sovereign country. Ukraine is kept afloat by the U.S. It is kept afloat. We provide them with things. Ukraine must not behave as if it were a sovereign state. Wow. Okay, so he's just repeating what Putin's repeating. Now, at the same time, the Russians have been surprised by being hit where they've been hit. Belgorod was struck with HIMARS yesterday. The power was out for many hours. We were at war. Everyone's blanking, fighting against us, says this guy. Yeah, why? Because you didn't think that you were going to get hit like that. Because the U.S. has apparently let the gloves come off as far as, go ahead, take those deep strikes. Here, the foreign minister, the Ukrainian foreign minister says at the Warsaw Forum, Ukrainian foreign minister Sybiha warned that Russia that from today there will be no safe place on their territory and that Ukrainian weapons will strike any Russian military targets, stressing Ukraine acts in self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter. And they are starting to hit some things like what I showed you this morning in the morning video. They knocked down a helicopter. They hit a some kind of factory. They hit an oil depot. They hit a power station. Like they're hitting. And then here we have Keith Kellogg, ex-Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg says the President Trump permitted Ukraine to strike deep into Russia. Listen to this.
Get that. And we should react accordingly.
I just want to clarify. Are you saying, though, that it is the president's position that Ukraine can conduct long-range strikes into Russia, that has been authorized by the president.
I think reading what he has said and reading what Vice President Vance has said, as well as Secretary Rubio, the answer is yes. Use the ability to hit deep. There are no such things as sanctuaries.
So he hedged that in what others have said, but yes, that apparently appears to be the case. Now, Greg Terry again found some other words from that same interview. Listen to this.
Bombers, missiles, the drone technology, it's really advanced, and sometimes I think we don't realize how serious this is. And my biggest concern is that a mistake can happen. And
That's what I'm talking about. Something that we're not expecting can pop off the wrong direction. We're an inch from the line, and we need to be really, really careful at this moment.
causes for a larger escalation, be it the attacks by the drones into Poland or the aircraft that are overflying Estonia, whatever it's going to be, you have to be very, very careful about it. And when I was up at the UN this last week, I talked to the National Security Advisor for the Japanese, Masataka Okano, and he said, hey, by the way, make sure you understand this is internationalized. And what he meant by that is he said, in our neck of the woods, the Chinese are being very, very aggressive about it, as are the North Koreans. So this is just not only a European issue. This is a global issue, and I think sometimes we forget that.
Yep, that's exactly right. Okay, last little bit by Polish Prime Minister Tusk. Polish Prime Minister Tusk issued a warning to the West. The war in Ukraine is not somebody else's tragedy. It's ours. Listen to this. There is a war today. The greatest task, the most important task of all public opinion leaders is to make the entire Western community painfully aware, deeply aware of the minds and the hearts of the entire world, he says. And then he said this as well: we will not lose. Ukraine will win this war. We will preserve Ukraine's independence and secure the future of our children, generations to come. I firmly believe this. Think about it, talk about it, take action. Thank you. But yeah, again, it's ours. It's not just Ukraine. So again, we're getting closer to it. Now, as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about this guy as like, what kind of metaphor? Like, you have to get things so right, Europe, from this point forward, not to get into a wider war. It's like this guy kicking a can, trying to, whoop, and he got it in. Whoa, like it's like that. Like, you have to get things so right from this point forward. Otherwise, it could be disastrous. Okay, my last little bit, my shout out is to Herman Hillbrink, undergraduate student, YouTube member. Thank you for your time. Tell me what you think about what you saw here, folks. Tell me, does it sound right, like what I'm telling you? Because I think in the last couple of weeks, all the drone incursions and harassment, the jet flying over Poland and Romania, Estonia, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, like you name it, it's just gotten us so much closer to something that I don't think we really want. I'm not sure where Putin is, but I know that the West doesn't want this. And by not having dealt with it, we're getting closer and things could go horribly, horribly wrong. Tell me what you think in the comments. I'll try to read as many as I can. Hit the like button, if you will, to spread this message. I appreciate that. And thank you for the time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.